Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to the Inspired Messenger Show. I am your host, Mark Porteous, and this series is really designed to inspire, educate, and motivate you to recognize and share your own divine gifts with the world. We share information, resources, and action steps that you can take to improve your personal and professional life so you can better fulfill your mission. I feel incredibly blessed to work with these amazing mentors and teachers who are aligned with my mission to empower inspired messengers and soul-driven entrepreneurs with the tools and the support they need to thrive in their purpose of transforming lives. It's a great honor to introduce my mentors and colleagues to you so we can all benefit from their wisdom and sharing. And the title of today's show is The 6 Stages to Discover and Rock Your Destiny in 2016.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Our guest today, Michelle Casto, provides divine harmonic energy transmissions and destiny activations for awakening lightworkers and change agents, dedicated to being the change they wish to see in the world. Through her writing, mentoring, and healing work, she assists her clients to dissolve hidden subconscious programming so they can step fully into their power, passion, and purpose. Her commitment is to guide awakening men and women to experience a blissful, purposeful, and successful life by learning how to become crystal clear vessels of light so they can answer the question, what would it take for me to fulfill my greatest destiny? Hello, Michelle. Welcome.
Hi, Mark. Happy New Year, everybody. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to share my message, my inspired message.
Absolutely. I'm really grateful for you being here and for your work in helping other messengers to shine in a brighter way.
Absolutely.
And I really feel like this is just the perfect way to start off the new year. And I know that you've got a lot to share with us today. We're going to go through some really important steps in what it will take to really make the most of this year. But before we dive in, can you tell us a little bit more about your personal story and how you got on this path?
Yeah, I was an indigo child, so I was always very intuitive and tapped in. That wasn't nurtured, as many folks were not probably nurtured. But luckily, I held on to that creative, intuitive, awe-inspiring part of me into my early years. And I started off really not knowing what I wanted to be when I grew up, Mark. I didn't know, I didn't have a real specific career path. So luckily for me, I knew I wanted to go on and become a college student. I was a first generation college student, so I just was always really driven to get to be educated and to know things like knowledge. And so luckily for me, I started out in career counseling and started helping people figure out what they wanted to be when they grew up, which was a great way for me to figure that out. And then early on, I found the field of coaching and shifted out of academia. I was in higher education, shifted out of academia into coaching and really started working on the purpose work. And that started about 15 years ago. I'm one of the older but golden coaches that have been around the block. So I've seen the field grow and develop over a couple decades. And my work has just gotten deeper and more spiritual and more about helping people activate their destiny and live the purpose that they were born to live. But it started out of not knowing why I was here or what I was supposed to do. So it makes perfect sense in a way.
Absolutely does. And it's interesting you mentioned the indigo children. That's a big part of why I'm here, is to really help all of these beautiful souls that are coming in to really help awaken the planet. And when you said that you didn't know what you wanted to do when you grew up, it reminded me of my daughter, who we do get to nurture that spirituality in her. And she's been so stressed out lately. She's 5 years old and she doesn't know what she wants to do when she grows up.
Oh my goodness. How times have changed.
Yeah. Well, she's just working with her mom now to start her first website called Being Eden. And
love it. That's so inspiring. Wow. Yeah. That's cool.
And I love that you were a career counselor and helping people with their path, in that level. And now you get to help people with their path on an even deeper level.
Exactly. Yeah. And very early, I dropped the assessments and the formal ways of getting that information and knew that I was an intuitive coach, that there was ways to help people discover who they were through a more inner knowing, heart-centered place. And I just did that naturally. So what I want to begin to say, though, to everyone listening is that everyone listening out there has a very unique and special part to play in the shift of consciousness. And you were born for this, and you were born with a destiny that is yours and unique to you. And that's true for everyone. And everybody has been called. You know, we say, but not everybody will answer the call. And so for those of you listening to this, I'm invoking and activating within you now that desire to answer the call, not to just keep letting the phone ring and say, I'll get it later, or let it go to voicemail, but to actually this year allow yourself to answer that call. And you don't have to know how you're going to do it, because you won't. Unlike a job or a career where there's a specific way you do things, your purpose doesn't have a rule book. You just have to kind of show up and follow it. And I always say that the work will show you what needs to be done. So there's a lot of surrender, and there's a lot of getting yourself out of the way. That is really what I'm gifted at helping my clients do, so that the destiny can be lived through them and it can be shared and expressed.
I love that. Especially the idea about everybody having their own unique calling, because there's so many people who have their blueprints on here's how you create your own successful career, and all the success you're talking about, and the idea about following our own inner guidance and having support to just listen in, I think is very, very powerful. So
that's so cool. And I just want to say that because, like, if you look at the cover of the book, I think this is really important, and you can see that there's like a treasure chest on the front, and that's really because the greatest treasure is often buried beneath our feet. Right? And so it's like, that's the excavation part. That's the part when you're in the presence of a true master, a true coach, or a true healer, they're going to help you discover what's true for you. And that's so true, because I've seen so much of the left brain, old paradigm, ABC 1, 2, 3, this is how you do it. However, that only takes you so far and won't get you to cross the finish line. What you want is somebody to help you destiny map your unique way of doing it. And I actually think of destiny as a dance. And so some people's dance with destiny, well, for those who are not awakened, it looks like a herky-jerky. It doesn't look very pretty. And then it can look like maybe a waltz to some people, and some people it's a salsa. But here's the deal. If you're trying to salsa when you're a waltzer because someone told you that's the way it's supposed to look, it's not going to flow. And so what I really empower my clients and whoever I'm in front of is that, hey, you know the answers. Trust your knowing, and let me help you pull that out. And then let's make choices from there and map out your way that you want to dance to your destiny and your unique rhythm and style and grace and all that. So I think that's the new paradigm that we're moving into. However, it requires a lot more trust and a lot more faith that you actually do know and do have it encoded within you.
That is so true. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people have a problem with is, like you said before, you may not know how you're going to do it, and we're so hung up on the how that we forget that it's in there. And certainly we get that whole head and heart thing. I know that was the biggest problem with me. I thought I didn't have intuition, but I was getting guidance all the time. I just didn't trust it. And so
yes,
learning that trust is big.
Exactly. Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Well, you've got 6 steps that you're going to share with us today on how to rock our 2016. Do you want to just dive right in there and let's go?
I think we should dive in. Yes, because when we think about destiny mapping and getting from point A to point B, where we want to be, where we are to where we want to be, you first have to know where you are, right? If you're going anywhere in life. So the way that I structure my process is the 6 stages to discovering your destiny. They all start with A, if you guys are taking notes. And I'm just going to talk about them briefly because we don't have time for the whole nuts and bolts, but I want at least to help you maybe identify where you might be just from your own knowing today. So the first stage that's really important is the awakening stage. And the awakening stage usually isn't that fun because it usually is like a disorienting event, like a divorce or a job loss or a physical health thing or a financial thing, something that shakes up the status quo of your comfortable life to get you to wake up to something new. And the awakening stage is very important because if you never awaken, you will never go really on your destiny discovery journey. You'll just stay asleep. So it's very important. And so some people may be in that stage now. They may be like, why is my life falling apart right now? This sucks. Well, I'm here to tell you it's for a divine purpose, and it's to help you wake up. The second stage is you start to become aware of like, wow, you might have dreams, or you might have those secret desires that you've always thought of that never told anybody. I'd really like to write that book, or I'd really like to be a teacher or a healer, but I'm in, accounting. How can I do that? But you have awarenesses, and you might like have books, or you might be listening to a podcast like this or a video cast, and something I might say or Mark says stirs an awareness within you. That's awareness. So you start getting little clues. The third stage is you start to come into acceptance. It's like, hey, I am a healer. I am a coach. Like for the longest time, Mark, I didn't know that I was a naturally gifted healer. I just thought I was a typical coach, and we just talked on the phone and did all this stuff. Well, meanwhile, my clients were having like miraculous like shifts in consciousness and getting off antidepressant drugs and all this stuff. And I didn't know what was going on because I hadn't claimed or had the acceptance as I am a vessel for healing, right? So acceptance is where a lot of my clients show up in my practice. They may have awakened and become aware of who they are, what they're meant to do, but they're not accepting it because it's difficult to say, yeah, you're the one, you're a healer, you're a coach, you're a whatever, because we all have the who am I to be this bright light. And, we all have that on some level because it was conditioned in us. Mm-hmm. So acceptance is third stage. And the fourth stage is where you begin to talk about it. And so articulation is the fourth stage, and putting words to it. Like my purpose statement has changed the way I speak about it over the years based on the expression of it, but the essence has always stayed the same. But the way I speak about it might get a little bit more clear and a little bit more on point, when you get right there on there. Mm-hmm. So one of the gifts that I am very good at is activating awareness with people and helping them embody their leadership. So once you have those words and you're like, oh, that's my purpose, like that's the gifting, that's the essence that I'm bringing, you can start talking about it and articulating it to yourself and others, marketing, offering your services. But without it, you've seen some people that don't know what their purpose is, and they have like a paragraph long of words, and you're like, you don't got it. Because there's a whole bunch of words that sound great, but there's no zing, So and so I work a lot with advanced light workers who have been on the path for a while, but their messaging needs a makeover. It's really just a little off, and so I really help them get really on point with it and stick it. And the last couple of people I worked with, like just a couple of weeks ago, was just like, they were just amazed at how like on point and how on fire they felt once they had the right language for who they were and what they were up to. So you notice this action stage, which is actually stage 5, comes after all these other ones. And so what happens is a lot of times when we hear about, oh yeah, I've got a purpose, well, the first thing we want to do is tell me what to do. I'll go do it. And we want to get in action. Mm-hmm. However, there's some stages that we go through before it's inspired action, and you're taking action from the right place. Otherwise, you can kind of burn yourself out and spin wheels if you just want to go straight into action without really accepting who you are. And then finally, stage 6 is allowance. And this is where we get into the flow of our life. Like life is pulling us. We understand that the divine really is working through us and whatever we're up to. It's not us driving the car. We're in allowance. The other thing I like to say about this whole dance is that all those stages happen again and again and again. Because as we go higher up our own consciousness level and our soul's journey, we're going to come to another awakening. And so we want to be allowing at every single stage in our dance. So we want to be allowing when the awakening is happening again. And we're like, no, this again? Like, oh no, I got to go higher. Yes, you do, right? And so allowing is very important. And it's not like it's separate stages. On some level it is, but then they're all kind of interweaved. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of like Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey, where you first hear the call, and then you answer the call, then you go through the different stages of initiation, and then you come back with this gift, but then you got to come back in with the gift, then it's a new call, then you're going through this.
It's precisely the same. I love that. And yeah, it's very much, in fact, I talk about the hero's journey in the book, and that's exactly, we're on a soul's journey, and that's kind of how the story of our lives unfold. And it can either be unconsciously or consciously, and that's the destiny discovery, is an awakening to that this is all happening and that you have a part to play and a choice And I always say choice is so vital that even the angels don't have choice. We humans are so powerful that we have choice. So here's what I want to say is you can always choose or not choose to follow your destiny. It is not always easy. I'm not even going to pretend that it is. Not going to pretend that, following your purpose doesn't take a lot of courage and a lot of faith. But it's always your choice. And so we can play our destiny at different levels. And I believe that the higher level our consciousness, the higher level we play our destiny. And I feel this when, Mark, this, when like you read a piece of work or you see an art piece and you can feel the essence of someone's creation, you can know how much heart and divinity was created in something by feeling or looking at it. The higher the vibration, the higher the divinity within that work of art or whatever is created, the higher the purpose that has been created that with. So I feel that there's a definite correlation between raising your consciousness and then expressing your destiny. And I talk about that as well in my work.
Well, I love it. I think it's, again, a very complete 6-step process because it's a circle. So it is just constantly going. And I want to go a little bit more into the first stage, the awakening stage, especially here at the beginning of the year. I think this is a good time for us. Yes. It's kind of the beginning of a cycle for many of us. But I also wanted to mention a couple things. One, if you do have questions or comments, you can post those in the chat box. Feel free to email us or send comments later. You can put comments right below the video. But I am watching the chat box. Everything comes up there. And then also want to remind everybody that you're sharing a special gift, the Destiny Discovery Success Kit. You can download that right below. You just hit that button. But we'll talk about that a little bit more about the discovery or the Destiny Discovery Success Kit. Let's go a little bit more into awakening. What are there different steps in that? How do people, if they might be, because you mentioned it kind of like coming up from a dream, and some people wake up and they feel refreshed. Other people, it's the groggy. I think it's a great first step of
yes.
More.
Part of the reason why people refuse the call to awakening is it's inconvenient. That's the number one reason. They have to change. Something has to change in life, and we all know how most humans have been programmed to resist change. So it's inconvenient to leave that relationship or make that job change. So an awakening is like something's out of alignment with you at the deepest level, and it almost hurts, like it's a soul ache. But you've gotten so used to the suffering that you're like, well, this is better than not knowing what I'm going to, because I don't know what I'm going to, and we have a great fear of the unknown. So part of what we wanted to bring into this discussion was that some of the deadly Ds that I talk about, the deadly Ds of destiny, which are part of the reason why people don't awaken, is that they get caught in a couple of these detours. So they go down a path that they know is not right for them. They get hooked into some network marketing. I don't know. I'm not shooing anything, but let's just say something that sounds good that's really not for them, and they go down a detour. And then you can yeah, it's shiny object syndrome down the road, and there you go, 5 years down the road, it's like, whoops. So detours and distractions. I mean, 1,000,001 distractions in our modern universe, right? That can pull you off of having that awakening and saying, yes, I'm willing to answer this call. And so detours, doubt in yourself. And like, who am I to have done this? And so I wanted to kind of give you guys what I would call some destiny inquiry prescription questions for each of these. So you can write these down if you want. So like when we're talking about the doubt, if I wasn't feeling doubtful, what would I choose? So if you feel doubt is one of your deadly Ds that's preventing you from really awakening or accepting and moving on, ask yourself this question. If I wasn't feeling doubtful, what would I choose? That's a great self-inquiry question that can help you go inside and find your own answers. I'm a big proponent for that. You already know. It's all inside, just like that treasure chest on my book. You are that treasure chest, and but you have to remember to go in. And so another question is, okay, this is one of my favorite ones about denying that So denial is another deadly D. We pretend like, oh no, I don't see it. We go into denial. So the question here is, what do I know? What do I know that I'm denying that I know, that if I would allow myself to know it, would allow my life to change? And that's a long one, and it's meant to kind of squish your brain a little bit
Mhm.
on purpose. But what do I know that I'm denying that I know, that if I allow myself to truly know it, would allow myself to change, allow my life to change? So a lot of times we know something inside, and we've known it for days, weeks, years, but we suppress the knowing because, again, going back to we don't want to make a change and awaken to step out in a new direction. It's much easier to pretend that we don't know. And that's one of our inner saboteurs, is the I don't know what to do voice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very convincing, by the way. And I have experienced them all. So
And we could do a whole call. In fact, we at one point we're planning to do a whole call just on saboteurs, because that when you mentioned doubt, I see that as one of the biggest challenges that most of my clients and members of our group have. Is that, like you mentioned earlier, the who am I, or
yes.
the vision's too big. There's just so many stuff. So yeah, that inner saboteur can be really deadly.
I'm teaching a class on that at Unity this weekend. It's all about saboteurs. But the last question I want to give the listeners is about the distractions. So what distractions am I using for the destiny I could be choosing? And these sound a little bit like access consciousness questions, and that's cool because I love how they phrase their questions. But that's kind of where we want to go. We want to go into question versus conclusion or judgment that I can't, or somehow it's impossible, or why even try? Because two of the deadliest energies are resignation and resistance. So we think resignation is why even try? It's like pointless. My life has been this way my whole life. It's been a struggle. So we go into resignation, which will keep us stuck. And resistance is all of this that we're talking about. So again, what distractions am I using for the destiny I could be choosing? This could be drugs, alcohol, the obvious ones, or it could be subtle things like, oh, I'm going to compare myself to everybody on Facebook and feel bad about myself, or little things like that that we do to ourselves that take away our power, or that we give away our power to something else, versus really choosing to awaken to the power that we are. And I'm not saying it's easy, Mark. Oh, MG, no, I'm not. And that is why we have to have support, and we have to gather in groups like this and talk about it, get the conversation going, and have somebody in your life, at least one person, if not 100, who see who you really are and can remind you when you forget.
That brings up something for me that came to mind, was courage. Because for a lot of people, if you are going through those distractions, especially things like you mentioned, some of the addictions, drugs, alcohol, things like that, you might make all kinds of excuses for what it is other than a distraction. But more so, it's very vulnerable to share those distractions. Any of this resistance, I think, can be really vulnerable. And I don't know what it takes to really build that courage for somebody to just make that change. I think that's one of the problems with New Year's resolutions, is having the courage to do something different.
Absolutely. And what I would say too is, what's interesting about purpose and destiny are the exact things that you're resisting or having trouble overcoming is exactly the training for what you're to provide other people.
Mm-hmm.
In my life, I struggled to shine my light and just to be who I was, and to stand out and be different. So my first coaching practice was bright light coaching. Well, I'm great at helping other people see their and shine their light, but it's what I struggled with for a long time. So those things that are distracting you or are giving you challenges, they are actually your training ground, and they have purpose. And that's part of what I go in and help people see too, is what's happening in your life, and how do we look at it in a way from a divine perspective? Because one of my favorite questions is, if you're in a change or a challenge, and I say change, challenge, chaos are stepping stones to destiny. That's what they're there for. They have purpose. So, but if you're in one of those and you're like, how in the heck am I going to make 2016 different than last year? Right? I really want to. Michelle, Mark, I want to, but I don't know how, or if I can do it. There's this thing in my life, this change or challenge, and it seems so big. I want you to look at it from a higher perspective and say, if there were a higher purpose for this change or challenge or distraction or any of these things we're talking about, what would it be? And you start to open up to, wow, like the fact that I'm struggling with this job that I don't like anymore, how many other people might be struggling with that? that's helping you to muster the courage that you need to make the step, but also to be able to empathize with similar people that you may be helping down the road.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure your path has had those places where you were getting your training to step out into who you are. I mean, that's typically just how it works, is our life is preparing us for our destiny.
Yep, and I'm the same way with the visibility thing. It's a lot easier for me to help shine the light on everyone else, but having the light shining on us sometimes can be uncomfortable, and that's one of those things that we're here to learn. And I totally agree with you. All those challenges, the resistance that we feel, that's what we can actually help others with as well.
Exactly. It's all got it's all purposeful.
Mm-hmm.
We just have to learn to see it for what it is.
And you're talking about specifically, how do I step up this year? How do I play a bigger game this year in 2016? So no matter where somebody might be on their journey, you mentioned it being a cycle. And so the awakening cycle, this is a perfect time for us to be doing that. It's winter time, no matter where we are, it's the new year, and we can look at this as a new cycle. So how do we step it up a little bit in this cycle?
Yeah.
What would you say then for somebody who is already maybe awake or has been through the cycle a few times, but really wanting to expand?
Yes. Awesome question. Yeah. So for those of you listening that have been doing this for a while and you're like, okay, I'm ready to go bigger. I'm ready to let my soul come out. I would say that the number one reason why it's not happening is probably an inner saboteur energetic running in the background that you're not aware of. And I've been doing my work for over 15 years, and I've always included this work with all of my clients. So it's like none of us get away with not having that piece to handle. What I found, though, the way that I work with it, Mark, is that I integrate and befriend that energetic, and we actually give it a new position. So I funnily say, fire your pesky saboteur and hire your inner rock star. That's the process we go through. We don't make it wrong. It's serving a purpose. It's gotten us to where we are. Yet if we want to go to the higher level within our soul's path, we have to bring it on board and put the soul in charge instead of the saboteur, because the saboteur is buying into lies and limitations that keep you safe and small, but the soul wants to expand. So basically the way I work it is it's an energetic repatterning is a way to put it, where it just gets a new job, but it's still a part of the plan. So we're actually loving and befriending it, which is really what it needs and wants. And once we do that, then we can actually start to make choices that are more in alignment with our true self.
Beautiful. I think that is so powerful. And yeah, it's usually some inner thing that's the biggest block that we have, rather than all those outside things that we're using as excuses.
Yes.
So in the last couple of minutes here, can you tell us a little bit about your free offer and how that will help our listeners?
Absolutely. So we mentioned the book, The Destiny Discovery, Find Your Soul's Path to Success. So it'll give you 2 chapters to read and some exercises in that. And I also have some audios and a meditation to help you uncover what your purpose might be, or at least get some additional clarity. It's a very powerful meditation. It's 10 minutes. And all these things, if you just take, a half hour and just kind of sit with it, it's going to activate something within you and give you some insight so that you know that next step to take along your path.
Perfect. That's a fantastic tool to start off the year.
Yep.
And then I know we're right at our 30-minute mark, but you had mentioned something about doing activations, that you do this with your clients.
Yeah.
Is it possible to share a little sample of that and give us all?
I'd like to do that. I think this is a perfect time to kind of bring everybody into their center. So if everybody just wants to kind of take a moment and close your eyes if you feel comfortable. Take a breath and let it all go. Go into your center of your body. If it feels right, you can put your hand on your heart and your other hand on your belly. Really feeling you and feeling embodied. It's very important for us to come out of our heads all the way into our bodies. And as you think about what is coming to an end in your life, What is coming to completion? And allow whatever wants to come up to come up. What is that completion for you? And then how do I want to bring this to completion? Let the answer come up in your heart and in your head. How do you want to bring this thing, opportunity, situation to completion? Completion is extremely powerful energy. We cannot move forward or take new action when we've got too many things on the burner. We need to complete. And then ask your inner self, what is one action, one specific action that you can do to solidify that completion? Is it write a letter, have a conversation, unplug, delete some emails, get off some lists? What is that? And then just giving that energetic a farewell. Thank you for being in my life. I'm freeing up some energy. You may want to shrug your shoulders a little bit with letting that go. Yeah. Now, as we look into 2016, what is it that wants to be created? What is wanting to come in to my life? What would I love to create this year? And let that drop into your heart. Bypass your head answer. Listen for the heart answer. And then again, how would I like to create this? How would I like to bring this into reality? Yawning or any energy movement is good. That's good. We want to move the energies. And I like to breathe. Don't forget to breathe. No one's listening, so you can make noise. I think the big thing that I love to do with people is move the energy. This is very important. And then ask your inner self, your wise inner self, what is one specific action that you can take today to put that creation in motion? And listen to that specific guidance. Make a note of it. When you get off the call, write it down. Because you'll get busy and you may forget. So write it down or do it immediately. And then with big arms, open up your arms and welcome in like the new energy, the new possibility. I'm saying yes to my destiny. I'm saying it's okay that I don't know how to do it. I'm saying yes to getting the support that I need. And I'm ready and I'm willing and I'm ready and I'm willing and I'm ready and I'm willing and yes!
Yes.
Woo! And then just come back in and bring all that into your body. Allow the yes to filter through and activate cells and run through up and down your spine. We need to say yes to ourselves. If you do nothing else this year, I invite you to be a yes to your pleasure, a yes to your life, a yes to your yes, a yes to your love, a yes to your success, and absolutely in your heart, put both hands on your heart, a yes to my destiny. And so be it, and so it shall be. That was good. Thank you for letting me do that.
Thank you. Thank you for that gift, Michelle.
Absolutely.
Did it.
Absolutely.
I am really grateful for our connection and look forward to doing much more together. If people want to connect with you directly, besides getting the gift there, what's the best way to reach you?
Well, on social media, you can find me on Facebook and Twitter and all that as Bright Michelle. And brightmichelle.com will redirect you to my Rock Your Destiny website, which is my new coaching website, and you can find me there. So say hello and let me know you're out there and what you got from today's show. I'd love to know.
Absolutely. I was going to say the same thing. Please feel free to post your comments right below the video here. Feel free to reach out to us at the Inspired Messengers Network, but just make sure to keep taking those action steps and really making sure to open up to all the possibilities of the year.
Amen.
Thank you so much. Was there anything else that you want to say before we say goodbye then?
Yes. I would love to remind everybody to remember to shine your light, because the world really does need your light. And this is the year to let it shine. And it's that simple and it's that profound.
Mm. It certainly is. And it's funny because we have so much in common that I just see a lot of different pieces of it, and a lot of things that you said are the things that I do, and the same thing for you. But I like to end every one of my calls by reminding each person here, first thanking you for being here with us, spending the time with us, and reminding that you really do, your life story is a message that can help other people, and most of all that you truly are a beacon of light in the world. So please.
Love that. I didn't know that. Perfect.
Yeah. So and every call, so it was really funny when I smiled when you said, keep shining brightly.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Well,
Thank you, Mark.
Michelle. Absolutely. Have a fantastic day. And thank you, everyone, for being here.
Namaste, everybody.
Namaste.